Welcome back to the channel. In the last video, we took a look at my 2008 Porsche Cayman and how I got absolutely screwed. Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about the process of fixing and restoring it. So let's go pick up the car. We're back, and a big fat bill later, it should hopefully be okay. So let's take it for a spin. This stupid car had better work. All right, definitely needs gas, so we're gonna go ahead and start with that. But now let me tell you what all went wrong with this car and how I ended up with it in the first place. Okay, so I've got my bill here for the repairs. It's two sides. It's nothing that's that crazy, but my hunch about the air oil separator turned out to be correct. So the air oil separator and the air oil separator hose, those both had to be replaced. Now the AOS, that's pretty cheap, 100 bucks. The separator hose, 97. So nothing too crazy there. However, 3 hours of labor at $178 an hour, that's gonna bring that job down to $736. Okay, next what we had to do was clean out the fuel system, a motor oil treatment, and washer fluid. I guess it was low on that. I didn't really ask for any of those things, but at the very least, that was $161 with parts and labor, so I guess that's small potatoes by the rest of this car's standards. So next up, we had to clean the intake and the oil mess because the AOS, which had failed presumably quite a while ago, basically flooded the entire intake system with oil. So that's a good thing. So they charge 50 bucks for the parts for the oil filter, which I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure that's like 30 bucks, but I'm not gonna split hairs here. Then we had clean extensive oil mess residue, replace air filter as it's soaked in oil, clean air hoses and pipes, remove full intake, and clean airflow meter. So for that, we were looking at 10 hours at $178 an hour for $1,780 in labor there. A couple other miscellaneous things, but the total for everything was $3,336 to get this car sorted. So to recap, this car I spent $22,696 on purchase, shipping, taxes, all that stuff. And then we're in another $33,3695 just to make sure it actually runs. And full disclosure, this $3,300 bill, that would not have been nearly all of it. There are a couple of other maintenance items on this car that should ideally be taken care of at some point. I did what I could to get this car in good running order, but definitely more work to be done. Speaking of things that need to be done, this car just won't quit. It's really keeping me on my toes because no sooner have I now gotten it back, but the check engine light is back on. So if we go ahead and fire up the car here, you'll also notice, right, on the inside here, we should get a check engine light in just a second. I'm actually kind of surprised that it's not showing up here. We're still getting some smoke. Okay, it just blew out a little bit. Oh God. Right, so the check engine light actually didn't come on there because I cleared the codes, but I've been getting this check engine light that seems to indicate a fault with the AOS. Now, when I took this to the mechanic, I had them clean the AOS, but they didn't replace it. So I suspect that that might be the problem here. I'm getting a P1095 error code. So I'm now going to attempt to replace it myself because I don't want to pay like $1,000 to have someone else do it when I can just buy it for like 100 bucks. All right, well, not really sure how to do this. Oh, hello. That was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Okay, so what do we got here? We got some bolts. One. Oh, geez. That is really in there. Okay, time to go get a drill, I guess. Boom. Boom. Yeah, look at that. Not too difficult at all. Pulling the sensor wasn't really all that hard. It sits right on top in a pretty accessible area. The only wrinkle is you need a 5-point Torx security bit in order to pull it out. So I had to get one of those off of Amazon. But with that done, we got rid of the old sensor and installed the new one, and now it's time to fire up the engine. Some smoke coming out the back. No check engine light. All right, well, installation worked. I think what we're gonna need to do here is just put the car back together and drive it a little bit to see if it stops smoking at startup and see what everything is looking like. Okay, let's see how it feels already just pulling out of the garage. I can tell you the engine feels more stable, I guess. Okay, so let's get on the highway here where we can feel the engine a little better. Okay. Oh, that feels way better. Okay, let's give it a little bit of beans here in the tunnel. We'll switch over to manual mode, shift down to second. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, it feels so much better. That is truly remarkable. What a difference just a $150 sensor can make. But I mean, it makes sense because that sensor effectively tells the engine everything that it needs to know about the air going into it. So if that's unreliable or completely failed, well, the engine doesn't really know what to do. But now that we've fixed that, it honestly feels like I've unlocked this car's full potential. It's faster, noticeably. It's smoother. The engine isn't idling as rough or feeling as coarse as it did before. I'm honestly completely stupefied. This is amazing. Feels like a new car. Although if I'm being honest, looking around in here, it doesn't feel like a brand new car. I mean, this interior, it's okay. All the big stuff is here. It's just a little worn, a little tired. So I think what we need to do now is spend a bit of time rejuvenating the interior of this car. So here's how things look. Honestly, it's not terrible overall, but if we take a look at the seats more closely, you can see they're definitely shiny, they're definitely cracked. We've got some pretty noticeable fading in the bolster over here, cracking down below. The steering wheel also very, very shiny. Same with the door pulls. These definitely are a little bit worn. The passenger seat, not as bad as the driver's seat, but everything in here that's leather definitely could use a little bit of work. We've also got this problem here. The aftermarket head unit is kind of sunken in the dash. That cup holder isn't really actually screwed in. Yeah, there's definitely a couple of things which need to get taken care of. And so the first step today is the leather. So here's my little box of treats, and we've got quite a bit to do here. So first off, we have this Clyde's leather cleaning foam. This is gonna get a lot of the surface dirt and grime out of the leather. Then we also have a remoisturizing cream. So for the passenger seat, we don't really need to do anything other than clean it, and this will kind of moisturize it and protect it. So that's gonna be last. And then we also have this part. Now this is going to be more for the driver's seat because, well, the driver's seat does have this faded bolster here. So this is going to deglaze the top surface of the leather. This is going to re-dye it so that it won't look as bad. And then we'll top it off with the moisturizing cream. So that's the game plan. Let's get started with the passenger seat and getting it nice and clean. Spray a little bit out like that, and then we'll put it on the seat. We'll use circular brushing movements, and we're just gonna do this for a little while. Right, here's a really good spot. You can see the shine on this part of the bolster where your elbow rubs against it. So let's do that part next. I'm hoping that comes across on camera here, but you can definitely see a more even and less shiny surface to the leather there. So now I think it's time to turn our attention to the steering wheel before we move on to the driver's seat. You can see the leather here is extremely shiny. This is pretty typical of an older car, and we're gonna see if the leather reconditioning foam can do its trick here. Okay, fresh cloth. Let's do our first wipe. Look at the amount that has just come off. That is pretty crazy, and I can already see a difference. So let's keep going. Okay, there's our before. Wow, so much grime and grease. 14 years worth is just coming right off. Look at it. Wow, that makes a massive difference. I won't go as far as to say that the steering wheel looks new now, but it really looks and feels like we took about 90,000 miles off of this car. It's an incredible difference. So now the big one, the driver's seat. And this is gonna require more than just the foam, because as you can see here, this bolster here, there's no holes in it, but it has worn pretty significantly. I mean, you can definitely see the difference here as we get this nice and cleaned up. All right, so now it's time to tackle the number one sore spot in this car, and that is the driver's side bolster. Now, fortunately, there's no holes here, so we'll see if the Clyde's recoloring balm is able to make this look a lot better. Ta-da! Look at that. It's fantastic. This car is actually completely fixed as far as I'm concerned. And sure, you could do more to perfect it, but honestly, as far as I'm concerned, for a $20,000 car, the cheapest Porsche Cayman S in the country, this thing turned out really, really great. So I want to show you guys the interior of this car, because that's what I spent a good amount of elbow grease, but not a lot of money restoring. Okay, so take a look at how much better this interior looks. Remember, we had a nav system that was sunken into the dash, missing its bezel. The cup holder was falling out, was missing an ashtray, and the seats were really, really worn. Now, the seats are actually what I'm most proud of, because I basically spent about 50 bucks getting some leather treatment options, and they have worked really, really well. The seats look a lot better, they feel softer, they're a lot less dirty. And the steering wheel as well, that was something that was previously a little bit rough. It was super shiny all around, but just cleaning it up a little bit makes the car look a lot lower mileage than it actually is. So yeah, I'm very pleased with how the interior of this car came out. It was a lot worse when I started this series, and indeed this channel. In fact, my whole tone has shifted, because I feel like this car, as neglected and forgotten as it has been by its previous owners, it just needed a little bit of time so that it could really shine. And once you strip away the neglect and the literal dirt that was over it, well, honestly, it's a fantastic car. Now, obviously, I'm not in an enviable position owning this car, because of course I have invested a couple $1,000s into it and am probably going to lose a decent amount of money when selling it. But the next person that buys this car, I think, is going to have a really great time. I mean, we are talking about a purpose-built sports car with a flat 6 engine, 0 to 60 in the low 5s, for low $20,000 and almost no depreciation. This thing is already over 100,000 miles. It's already the cheapest one. what more is there to lose apart from, like me, maintenance? But hopefully the maintenance that I've done to this car, replacing the entire intake system effectively and the mass airflow sensor, the air oil separator, all of that stuff, those are parts that would last a long time. So hopefully the next owner of this car will have a grand old time just driving and enjoying it. And honestly, who wouldn't? It's a really, really, really good car. I think I'm going to be doing a comparison here on the channel between the 987.1 Cayman S and my other one, the 987.2. I think it's a really interesting topic, and honestly, you don't often get the chance to review them back to back like I have been able to, especially long term. So I'm definitely curious to know what your guys' thoughts are on a video like that. But as for this, the car is done. My journey is complete. Email me if you want the car. Thank you guys for watching.